This evening there is the launch of Big Country's brand new LP. It's called Peace in Our Time, and the launch is taking place at the Russian Embassy.
This evening, what it's about is announcing to the world press that we're going to Moscow in a week's time, and it was at the request of the Soviet Embassy that we initially held a press conference there.
The Russian Embassy have kindly donated their services and inviting a few media people there to listen to the album and listen to Big Country playing live.
Hello and good evening. I'd like to welcome you all here this evening, the first time ever the band's played in the Soviet Embassy in London. It's hope everyone enjoys ourselves, and hopefully this little thing that we do here tonight may lead to us all having a more restful sleep in the future. Thank you. This is called Peace in Our Time.
Inconceivable that a British rock band could be playing in the Russian Embassy in London. 2 years ago, it would have been impossible.
The idea of playing in the embassy came about because the concerts mark a first for Moscow, in as much as that they're to be promoted by bodies which are not the traditional state-run organisations which promote entertainment events.
This is a very good example of glassness and openness. And the band is perfect, and the music is perfect, and I'm absolutely sure that the future visit to Moscow will be a success.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's a good thing from a news angle, because this is the first time that a band has played in Moscow and hasn't been sponsored by the state. It's being sponsored by a separate promoter, rather like the big promoters we have in this country.
Concerts are actually being put on by the Foundation for Social Invention, and in a sort of joint basis with a guy called Stas Naman, who's quite a well-known rock artist in the Soviet Union.
Well, Stas Naman, who is this sort of Russian Beatles figure, is helping promote this in the Soviet Union, this tour of big countries. And the only reason he's been able to succeed, he's sold 40 million records in the Soviet Union, is because his grandfather's on the Politburo.
We've always been aware of the fact that music can be more than an entertainment form, that it can share ideas between people, that can cut across cultural and language barriers.
We, the music business, should be a part of that. The music industry has broken many barriers and taken the lead where others have feared to go, fed the world and done all those sorts of things. So yes, I think the record industry should play a major part in exchanging cultures and exchanging ideas with the Soviets.
And around that time, the Reagan-Gorbachev summit was happening in Iceland. There was a lot of meetings and discussions on it. And the sort of idea entered people's heads, but particularly in Grant's head, what a great idea if we can do something to bring together different nationalities and bring together the East and the West.
The idea came about from being probably Ian Grant after a lot of vodka one evening.
Now, it wouldn't surprise me if in the next year or two, if Gorbachev had his way, there wasn't a bit more of an open market for buying records out there. And of course, it'll be a very astute move on their behalf to be out there and in there first, as it were. I mean, I'm sure your status quo were thinking pretty much the same thing. And I'm sure Elton John was thinking the same thing when he went. And I'm damn sure that UB40 were, because it seems to me that UB40 are the only band whose records you can buy out there.
I think they're also going because they think that they can achieve something by breaking into new territories. I think they're going because they'll be able to get some kind of feedback from Russian musicians and maybe learn some new things.
The band had always said they wanted to play in the East, Mark because of his Polish background, Stuart for different reasons, and it seemed to, at this one particular moment in time in Los Angeles when the album was being recorded, it seemed to all fit. Yes, let's go and do something in Russia.
There are probably two reasons they're going to Moscow. The first is probably a reason of conscience, and the second is a marvellous hype. It will definitely develop a great deal of interest in the industry.
Obviously, with a trip like this, there does exist the opportunity for people to exploit it to the maximum. That happens whether you play in Moscow or whether you play in New York or whether you play in London. I think it happens everywhere.
I think the bad thing about rock music, especially as regards people in Russia listening to it, is that it's a dreadful language, it's cliched, it's appalling, and it doesn't really say very much.
If Big Country were a capitalist machine churning out inane rock, pop music to unsuspecting people who didn't want to buy it, then I might feel a wee bit guilty about inflicting this upon the Russians.
So may I present to you the group which performed so well only a few minutes ago, Big Country. Welcome.
I'm sure they know what they're doing. I think Stuart Adamson, I mean, you may say that his politics are naive. I think I've read that recently, and that is a naive thing to do. But whether it's naive or not, I think he's wholly committed to what he thinks is perestroika, what he thinks is glasnost, and how he should help it. So you can't knock somebody that's sincere, really.
Well, I hope Big Country know what they're doing. I'm sure they do. I'm sure that if not the band directly, then the marketing people behind them know what they're doing, and they're being very shrewd about it.
Maybe Big Country is part of a mega hype, but I think theirs is probably a genuine desire to break through certain barriers. I mean, do they really believe they're going to make a pile of money out of Russia? I think the answer is no.
As a marketing media event, I think it'll be very successful, yes. I don't know how many column inches they're expecting to get. And in fact, I mean, nobody will guarantee them any at all.
It's definitely heartening to see the interest which, well, our very modest efforts to open up our country are taking up by the British press, by the British media, and we very much hope that we might continue our, in a very cooperative mood, our endeavors for a better world.